Also the time, like, the fact that we are not traveling to work, the fact that we are, our work is not as busy. So it's giving us time. So what are we doing with this time together? So the whole space time, I think, is a great opportunity which the lockdown has given us to sort of revisit our parenting styles and sort of, take things forward. I think personally for me, two practices that have like really I've found very urgent and relevant given the lockdown is, the whole idea of telling your children versus really building conversations. Like, this is also a great opportunity for us to bring some of the bold and difficult conversations on the table and really be open to learning from them, because we as parents, Khaled Gibran really said that, very beautifully has said that children don't belong to us. They are with us, they come, through us. They really, they really don't belong to us. And I think really sort of thinking aloud on that can we really open the space and reduce the pressure of saying that we are supposed to guide and tell our children, versus really engaging on conversations with them. And things that can really come on the table now are a lot of ethical questions around empathy. And the second practice is challenging the norms. Until lockdown, screen time was such a battlefield. Right now, can we build trust and respect in our own parenting style to, see how they're making those choices for their screen time? Because now everything is on the internet and screen. There's another one that I think about: equality of roles. Like, what are they seeing at home? How are they seeing their dads step in? What are the roles that the mom is playing? Dad is loving to bake, but is he actually coming on and taking the chore of maybe, doing the dinner? So it's a great opportunity for us to really sort of set those examples, challenge those norms. I was thinking about it, the other day. There was a conversation around summertime, how we are actually during summer plan vacations, right? So, like, just this whole idea of being a tourist to fly to a destination, can we actually explore a traveler mindset where, we actually sort of create in a very creative way, explore the journey? So this is a good opportunity to, actually look at connecting versus correcting, discipline versus dialogue, right? So I think, to me, this and all of this reset can actually flow and nourish the relationship post lockdown as well. So, I mean, I'm looking at it, definitely as an opportunity to really consider my own parenting style. Yeah.
Wonderful.
It
I
was
think
lovely, Meghna.
yeah, such a well articulated response, Meghna. And I love this whole idea that you put forward of us learning from our children, connecting versus correcting, discipline versus dialogue, because I do find myself doing a lot of correcting these days simply because I have this huge urge to set a routine. In fact, I have a question from Sri Vidya on the chat screen asking specifically, how do I go about setting a routine? The assumption is that a routine is crucial to conducting ourselves in a lockdown period, and we'll address those questions even later, Srividya, with you. But I just want to throw this at Vinita now. So building on what Meghna just said, Vinita, around two things. Number one, learning from our children. So unlearning certain practices that we've held very dear to ourselves as parents of 8-year-olds and 13-year-olds and maybe 20-year-olds. So unlearning some of those practices that are not serving us anymore. And like Meghna said, learning from our children as well, because I'm surprised by the kind of fortitude and the kind of resilience that my kids have shown, more than me. So in fact, I have at certain points in time kind of been upset with the fact that the lockdown has been extended, etc. But I found my children to be absolutely fine with it and being more accepting. So what is it? How is it that we unlearn and relearn, Vinita? If you could, throw some thoughts on that one.
Yeah, so my take, Preeti, a couple of thoughts I have. The first one is that, maybe because we are with our children now literally 24/7 for so many days, and, God alone knows for how long this is going to be when schools open physically, they're going to be around. And what I've seen put a lot of pressure on parents and children relationship is because we tend to take our roles as parents far too seriously than probably what we need to. Basically, that every sort of time that we interact with them, it is an opportunity for us to provide a life lesson to our children. So the moment a child says, I don't want to eat parval, we throw poverty at them, that you know that there are so many people who are going hungry, or and some such. This is of course a very, very lame example, but we tend to do this, which is teaching values, except that we need to step back a little bit. Every time that we speak to them does not necessarily need to be about teaching them a whole new value or a new life skill. Sometimes it can be just about a conversation, about simple things, about parents even displaying their own vulnerabilities in front of the children. I'm having a hard time at work. It's fine. A child is 8, 9, 10. It's okay for them to know. Sure, a 4 and 5-year-old, I get, they're little. But at 8 or 9, they're likely to come and hug you and say, "Oh, Mama, you'll feel better after this." Or Papa, whoever. And to my mind, at this time, it is far more important, because we tend to get a little more, because all our reactions are getting amplified. We are trying to fit in so much more into that one day. We are trying to be the mother, the cook, the cleaner, the worker who's basically work doesn't end because office is not going to end. Um, and looking after everything, entertaining our children, ensuring that the Zoom meeting is working for both the children. There's just so much going on. So given that situation, given that we are going to be, kind of going around the bend, it's okay to tell the children that, today I'm not able to cope today. It's fine. And to my mind, those are wonderful ways in which we are not consciously building the relationship, but that's how relationships are built. By vulnerabilities being exchanged, by the fact that, and I hear, in fact, when I teach children, and one day I was doing vocabulary with my children, and these were class 8, 9 children, and I was talking about the word platitude to them, and you cannot imagine how excited my children were when I spoke about the word platitude, because when I explained it in English, people were like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." Then I said, "Bhashan," and how much they all laughed. They said, "Yeah, my mother does that all the time, and my teacher does that all the time." And that's the point. To step back from that, and sometimes to have simple conversations. And there is so much opportunity to have those conversations right now. Maybe if they are sitting on because they are sitting on a screen all the time, the entertainment is also on the screen. So maybe once in a while to watch what they're watching. Because that gives us something to talk about at a later date, rather than just saying you're always wasting your time. Maybe it's something consequential. Maybe it's just fun. And what's wrong with fun? Also, children are, when they say, "I'm getting fed up, you're not allowing me to, go out." Some children will feel that. Instead of saying, "Oh my God, think of the migrant labor who's not able to, who doesn't have food. Why are you whining about not going down?" The truth is, any break in routine is, and when that happens, it is a valid whine, right? How much whine depends on the way the family has been and what has been accepted up until now. Nothing dramatically different will happen. So if a child is complaining a little bit, tell the child, "You know what, I think what you're saying is valid. I'm feeling it too. I haven't met my friend. So I get it. Let's see the best thing that we can do in the situation." Right? And I feel that that will make lockdown not that hard to bear. And we might actually come out as better friends, particularly with children who are a little bit older. I'm saying for those of us who have, children who are above the age of 13. So my son is 25 and my daughter is 22. So they were teenagers also long, long ago. But I do know that those times can be particularly hard. So to go back on it, and we might actually mend and heal the relationship, because we don't have that pressure right now of, "You're getting late for your maths class, the driver bhaiya is standing niche, your carpool," all that. Just a break from all that, I genuinely believe that, that might be better. I don't know if that answered what the question you asked, but I did get a little bit carried away, because I'm hearing a lot of this, and I'm like, just step back and, let children be.
Wonderful. I think that's just so precious, Vinita, especially for me to hear as a parent. I think two things that I take back very, very beautifully is, number one, don't take yourself too seriously as a parent at this time. I think we tend to worry a lot about the fact that, oh God, it's a lockdown and I need to take care of my children. And, you know, I am the central figure in their lives. So, you know, probably that's a notion that we carry in our heads, and that's not so true after all. And secondly, the idea of, you know, having fun. I think that's absolutely crucial, especially with our children. It's not just about re-energizing them or re-energizing us, but what I hear you say is it's about re-energizing the relationship as such. You know, it just relationship so much. And also this whole aspect, Vinita, that you talked about, showing your vulnerability to our children. I think instead of just being very stoic and saying, I'm the calmest parent ever and all of that, it's just fine. And we need to kind of allow our children to know that, you know, there are times when even I lose it, and there are times when I may not be the best cook in the world or the best whatever in the world. And you know, that's just fine. I think they forgive us much faster than we forgive ourselves. So I completely
exactly. So just if we're just kinder to ourselves, it'll be easier to do things.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Vinita, for sharing that. And I think that must have given, you know, all our parents on this particular webinar a lot of food for thought. But I want to, I'm seeing a lot of questions here on the chat screen, and we'll come back to those questions. As I said, towards the end of the webinar, we'll have the last 15 minutes for that. But Meghna, I want to throw another question at you, given your background as an educator. And a lot of us are in a situation, and a lot of questions that I see right now are related to two things. Number one, the fact that a lot of education has moved online and is likely to stay online for a long time. It's not just about the lockdown, but, you know, maybe the entire format of learning is going to undergo quite a bit of change. So how is it that we as parents need to view that? That's one part of the question. And secondly, given that reality of online being, you know, a far larger aspect of learning now, how is it that we ensure that the learning space in our houses, therefore, are more secure and more, you know, aligned to, you know, creating meaningful learnings? It's not online for the sake of online, but there's some good at the end of it. So specifically related to that, Meghna.
Yeah, thanks, Preeti. So definitely, I think we as adults and children together, we'll have to transition to this whole space of online learning, and we'll have to support each other. And the saving grace here is that our children are digital natives, right? So there's a lot more to learn from them than us. You know, to give you an example, at the moment everything became online, you know, I did hear of examples where children wanted to order those Lenskart, you know, those blue glasses, which, you know, sort of prevent the eyes from the glare of the screen. So I think they are far ahead in terms of, you know, being able to manage the excessive digital time or the screen time that they're going to get. But I think as parents, you know, I think I see this whole space as a very collaborative space, you know, so coming to what we want to learn. There's so much out there now, and so many universities have actually opened out all the online courses, ranging from, you know, something for, you know, junior school children versus, you know, something for teenagers and all kinds. So there's something on filmmaking, there's something on cartooning, animation. And I think the possibility to be able to learn something new is so much now, you know, it's so much now. And I think apart from what we're learning, also it's a great moment because you may be able to do so much. There's also a great possibility to understand how we are learning, you know, and I think that's a huge study skill that our children really need. A teacher in a classroom strives to, you know, make the class experiential and bringing in so many other ways so that, you know, various kinds of learners can sort of learn effectively. And now there is, and the same thing is now moved to online. So there are amazing online tools where, you know, children can brainstorm together, and it's very creative, which will sort of, you know, really build an interest, if not for the subject, but the method. And that's what we really want. So we really want children to look at this whole online learning space and explore their own learning style, you know, because now it's at their pace. It's how they want to do it. And it nothing better than, you know, figuring out how you learn best, and not just schooling years, it'll go, you know, way through to adulthood as well. So I think what and how of learning is great. The other thing that you asked, Preeti, about how the home can be a great ideal classroom. I think, scheduling time and creating and organizing yourself, like, this is your workspace, whether you want to sit on the bed or a couch or a table. I think it's it's really nice to hear from them how they are most comfortable. Again, going back to telling and conversations, like really exploring or sort of, understand, helping them understand what's the best way that they can do it. Some children prefer to stay up late night and want to learn. They have the possibility to do it now. So let it be a learning curve for themselves to finally emerge with how they want to do it. But yes, like as caring parents, it's a great time to, make sure that they're eating on time, staying hydrated. Everyone's got a flask handy so that, you've got a sip of water as and when you'd like to. Even in class, you get these little breaks that you can, step out to. And I think, as far as safety is concerned, I mean, really, I'm not the expert here, but definitely, I think cybersecurity and all of those spaces, all of those things that come with it, is something that we must be mindful for. And I do know that schools have conducted certain webinars where they've brought in experts to talk about cyber safety and things like that. I think that's something that we must also keep in mind, apart from, making it a really joyful and a fun experience for them at home. Yeah.
Okay, great. I think that's a new way of looking at it, co-creating these learning spaces with the children rather than telling them that, this is the way it should be, and, run the timetable like I would like you to run it. Don't do late nights because I don't want you doing it. Allowing a conversation that is also educative in some sense, because they may not have the kind of worldview that we all have. So letting them know that, you may not know this, but this is how this excess screen time late in the night is affecting the way you develop or you grow or your eyesight, etc. Sometimes just letting them know can empower them. And then at the end of it, they themselves come back and tell us, what, I don't want to do it like this. I actually want to do it in the morning. So being more trusting is what I hear you say, Meghna, in those conversations.
Sure.
Interesting. Thank you so much. That's a new perspective, because like I said, I've been guilty of scheduling a lot of things for my children in the lockdown. It just makes things convenient for me. I know when they're going to be doing what, and therefore, I can schedule my life around their life. But I've realized now that it's more about my convenience, and therefore nothing to do with.
That's deep reflection, Preeti.
Yeah, but I'd like to say one thing here. It's okay that you worry about your convenience as well. We just have to have the balance. You matter equally.
Thanks, Vineeta. One of the messages we need to hear on Mother's Day, especially.
Absolutely. You matter, right? It's very, very important. So do worry about your convenience without throttling their creativity and their sense of comfort. Yeah.
Great. I have one more question for you, Vineeta, because I was just reflecting on the way you responded to question 1, and you said fundamentally parenting doesn't really change, lockdown or no lockdown. We've been parented ourselves in a certain way when we were kids, and we've been parenting our kids in a certain way over these years. And maybe whatever is manifesting right now is a result of that continuum, and it's not something absolutely berserk and new that suddenly emerged. Something must have been happening over the years for our kids to demand more screen time, or whatever, whatever it is that brings us discomfort. So as a family, and now I don't want you to talk about only the role of a mother, but as a family of maybe 2 parents, both the mother and the father, how is it that we build resilience to kind of tide over these difficult overextensions that happen in this period, for the lack of a better word, some amplification, some overextension, something that is troubling both us and them. What is it that, what is that strength that we need to bring together as a family?
So the way I understood is, sorry, did I understand the question correctly? Did you say, how do we teach resilience? How do we become more resilient as a family? Which of it?
Become more resilient as a family.
Now, become more resilient as a family is, of course, one could write a book on it, and it won't be a simple question, because there are so many different factors that go towards building resilience, starting with, the way we've been raised ourselves. We were raised to be, panicky. Then suddenly as adults, it's very, very hard to, feel fortitude and then definitely not to be able to exhibit it, right? And as a family, the way our children will learn it is also by the way we are exhibiting that behavior. So the way I look at it, there is no real way for us to exhibit anything or to build any of these consciously. Resilience, grit, fortitude, all of these wonderful, what I don't know what they are, because they're more than values, they're more than behavior patterns. Uh, a lot of, we tend to write a lot of essays on them, reams are written on them. The truth of the matter is that they only show up when there is a crisis, right? Getting 99.8% in CBSE is not a mark of anybody's grit or fortitude, right? It just shows a very committed mother who's ensured that she's pushed her children into the right tuitions, and the child has been very meticulous about doing everything right, right? And the child is disciplined and all of that, and not to take away from the child, but there is very little grit and fortitude in that. Grit and fortitude show up at this time. So now, if a family, as a family, we are able to, children are seeing us behaving with the help around us. The help is not coming, but they're hearing us talking to the help over the phone. What are they learning from that? What are they learning from the way we are looking after the older people at home? If they are there, or if they are somewhere else, like somebody's in-laws might be elsewhere, or parents might be elsewhere, and that's very stressful as well at this point in time. How are we dealing with that is the way children are learning it. So resilience and grit is, as a family, is going to happen the way we are connecting with each other, the way they are seeing us connecting with our environment, because it's not a solitary activity at all. Are we helping our environment in some way? Are we looking after people? Are we feeling okay about ourselves and saying, you know what, it will pass, a vaccine will come, behaviors will change. Are we willing to change those behaviors? And the way children see us doing it is the way children are going to do it. Parenting is actually, it's a contact sport. They're going to learn by what they see.
Yeah,
it's not a classroom instruction. As it is, we are seeing classroom instruction really for 40 children in a class. Well, 8 learn, right? 32 don't. So classroom instructions are overrated, and I think all of us know that. Parenting definitely is not a let me tell you sport. It is a let me show you sport.
Wonderful. I think that's so true. Contact sport. I can't tell you how to build resilience, but I can show you.
I mean, you're going to have to. And that too, you'll have to imbibe it, because if I tell you, okay, now this is how you're going to get it, that's also a problem. It's going to have to be in your subconscious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks, Vineeta. I think I love the phrase that you used of contact sport. Thanks. And how resilience is largely, what they see, and very little of what we kind of lecture them on, because children are hugely observant and far more observant than we would like them to be, but they are. So I would request all of you to put down your questions in the chat screen now, whatever you may have, because I'm going to open up the chat questions in the next 2 to 3 minutes. Meghna, over to you for any closing remarks, especially around this whole idea of, I have this very interesting remark from Gautami. She says, role modeling is core to parenting without being too hard on yourself. Gautami, I totally agree with this. And in these times of lockdown, actually, when we are stretched ourselves and we are getting pulled in different directions, role modeling is even more challenging, because, we've got 50,000 things to take care of, which we didn't really have to, 60 days back. So Meghna, what are your thoughts on that? How do we still continue to be the role model that we want ourselves to be, keeping in mind what Vineeta spoke about earlier? It's okay to show your vulnerabilities. Having said that, we do put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be role models. So what are your thoughts on that, Meghna?
Yeah, Preeti. So I think parenting ultimately is a reflection of your relationship with yourself. So, having your own personal practice of grounding yourself is really, really important, because this whole hidden wisdom of unlearning, relearning, telling in conversations, everything sits within you. And I think allowing this time to really ground yourself. So I think hope is a decision that children make any which way, very naturally. it is us who, just hold on to the stress and, let it hover around you. So the moment you can, you have a practice of de-stressing yourself, I think automatically that will seep into the family. So I'm a fan of families coming together to pray, families coming together to meditate together. And I think especially at this times, when the uncertainty is so loud, really taking that time out to just ground yourself. And I think in the long run, I think children will remember this, and it'll be a monumental time of everyone's life, that COVID 2019 and 2020, the whole joke about having to reinstall 2020 because of the virus, I think will really be a moment of a lot of transformational change. And I think a leap forward in maybe not just parenting, but just relationship. Like, how are we seeing our relationships? So, and I think resilience is something that I think has an opportunity to sort of leap or develop during a time like this. So, like really taking time out as a family to come together and, have whatever it may be, a slight grounding space will go a long way.
Great, thank you, Meghna. I'm cognizant of time, Vinita and Meghna. We are at 4:50, so I'm going to kind of quickly summarize some of the key things that we've spoken about so far, and then we're going to open up for questions. Starting off with the whole thought that we had at the very beginning in my discussion with Meghna, with Vinita, which talked about the fact that at the core of it, parenting remains the same, lockdown or no lockdown, and that we should view it as a continuum and not treat it as a completely different animal in these times. Having said that, Meghna, some important food for thought from your side around correcting versus conversing, dialoguing versus discipline, and how this is the time to let things be a little bit and not take the role of a parent way too seriously than we need to. While we may feel compelled to, we need to kind of hold ourselves back a little bit. Also, Vinita, I loved your points around the value of fun at this time, to indulge ourselves instead of viewing PUBG and I don't know, Fortnite as potential points of, combat with our children. Maybe those are potential points of actually collaboration and understanding.
Yeah,
and
I don't know, maybe play that ridiculous game once and see what's in it.
Yeah, so I love that part. Also, very importantly, unlearning some of our practices and trying to learn from our children, which actually on reflection, I realize is the whole point of parenting, because something that worked for me when my children were 2 and 3 doesn't work for me when they were 5 or 6, and certainly don't work for me now. Also, this whole idea of building resilience, I think two important parts to that which you spoke about was the fact that we need to role model, but also show our vulnerability. So role modeling doesn't mean that you remain stoic and overdo it all the time, because then probably, we overextend ourselves as parents. And the fact that the point that Meghna, that you made right now around the fact that it's important for us to have a personal practice of grounding ourselves, which could be meditation, prayer. It could even be simple practices that we start following as a family. And the last one around learning spaces, I think, Meghna, your idea is a completely new perspective to me around co-creating those learning spaces and not believing that I have all the right answers and then telling our children to follow a particular way of, education, even if it's online. So, I've tried to kind of write down all those main points that came through in this discussion. I'm going to open this up for questions now. And I want to, say two things before I open it up for questions. Number one, all of us are in very unique situations right now. So some of us have one child, some have 2, some have 3. Some of us are in joint setup, some of us are in nuclear setup. Some of us have, I don't know, just 2 laptops at home. Some of us have a multitude of machines at home and therefore no issues. Whichever way, not all unique situations can get addressed in this discussion. Neither are we the experts, really, None of us are experts to answer specific questions belonging to a family. So, very, very specific questions pertaining to your situation at home. I think you're the best judge. We can only talk about, best practices or certain nuggets that might be of use to you when you make that decision as a parent. So that's the very first thing that I want to say when I read out those questions. And the second one that I want to tell you is all of us have a point of view on parenting. So parenting happens to be a subject where everyone is an expert. really. And everyone has a right to be an expert because we have lived through it and we've learned through it in our own unique ways. So in no way are we the authority to say that, and Meghna and Vinita, I speak on your behalf as well. In no way are we experts to say this is the right way to do it and go ahead and do it like this and it's going to absolutely work out for you. So with those two, disclaimers in place, I'm going to take up those questions now. So I'm going to go bottom up because that's how my chat screen looks right now. So I have a question from Bhanu here. And actually, I also have a similar question from Rohit Shinoy. So I'm going to ask you guys this particular question around living in a joint family setup, where there are several members in the family and everyone has a different view of how a child needs to be parented. And therefore it can lead to quite a bit of perplexity in the mind of the child as well as us as parents. And how is it that we bring it all together? How is it that we deal with that when different people in the house have different ways of looking at parenting? So that's one of the questions that we have.
Okay, do I take it?
Sure, Vinita, please do.
It's I understand it's tough because if there are whatever 7, 8, 9 people at home, then chances are it is 3 generations living in together for sure, and possibly a brother-in-law, sister-in-law, or a brother-sister kind of situation. Having said that, there is always the one who is the prime caretaker of the child. Is it the mother and the father only, or is the other couple an equally important part? Because that cannot be. There needs to be somebody whose voice is going to be the most important voice. And it is that person, chances are it's the mother and father, whose sort of point of view on parenting is the one that needs to be showing itself through the child. And does that mean that there's going to be conflict in the house? Does it mean, what does it mean for you as a parent when you're saying that, hey, this is my child and this is the way I want my child to be? Well, that's a whole sort of discussion independently. And, one could go into like a family therapy situation if it becomes really bad. If it's an easy situation, then I think grandparents understand that really they might be a little bit not in with the times and therefore you need to take a call. But really, the parent is where it needs to stop. So you can't have everybody parenting one child because that is just not going to happen. Everybody is entitled to their point of view and the mother and father, absolutely. Right. I could speak about it for another 1 hour, but I do know that there's just very little time left.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Vinita. Meghna, do you want to add to that one?
No, so I think, there are 2, 3 questions that are around, screen time and things. I just want to quickly add to that. I think let's not make that a battlefield given the time, it's all right. And if there is something that you really want to do is probably again open the space for them to understand like what are the choices they are making and what are the choices that they have. If it's not screen time, playing what else, right? So helping them sort of look at other options, whether it's even organizing their cupboards. I mean, I know that little children as well as the teenagers, they find it really, really exciting. So can we sort of give them options to sort of consider versus screen time, but not making it a battlefield. Yeah. So
Great.
that's been, Preeti, what was the other thing about? Yeah, so I think the multiple voices when you're in a joint setup, I heard this some time ago that children feel much more than they see and hear. So I think, sort of believing in their own feelings is a space we must create for them. So if the primary caregiver is the mom, can the mom or even if it's the dad, can they open out spaces to sort of discuss with them and as to how they're feeling about a given situation, whether it's it could be anything, right? And allowing every child to probably experience and understand how they're feeling about it, because that's when they'll be able to make those decisions for themselves. Like, I think simple thing is like, I do know that my father-in-law would bring, chips and I would say, this is not healthy. And, so just sort of leaving it to, again, moving it to the whole conversation space, leaving it to them and allowing them to make their decisions, seeing their lens, I think really helps. And in the long run helps them build their own self-belief, which is what we want really, don't we?
Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
Very
Thanks.
well said, Meghna.
Couple of questions that we have around younger children. So I have 3-4 questions where the child is probably less than 5 years of age and very energetic, needs a routine, does not understand, does not have the ability to understand the ramifications of excessive screen time, etc. How is it that we address a situation like that when the child is very young?
With children that young, actually, it's very hard to really say it would work differently for each child, because I mean, you've got to be that child along with the child, right? And do many things with the child. So, and I know that, given that there isn't much help available at home right now, chances are that, one is completely overwhelmed with the cleaning and the cooking and all. Really, as messy as it's going to be, the child is going to then clean with you. And I know that that won't be very clean, but the truth of the matter is that that's the only way to engage very little children, is to actually have them participate in the activity with you. If we don't, then they're bound to sit on something that is moving and talking, right? Which is a screen. I mean, look at the number of adults now who've stopped reading because they're reading WhatsApp, right? What am I doing? I spend 1 hour on my WhatsApp, whatever that is supposed to mean. So, I mean, if as adults were thinking rational being, we are not able to sit down and read or do something very sort of creative with our time, how can a little child? So the only way is to include that child in your chores if you have chores to do. If you're working, then what sort of a relationship do you have with the person you're working with, where you'll have to keep giving some work to your child for half an hour, whether they're coloring or those dot joining or whatever it is that you're doing blocks, that you can keep getting up again and again and doing it, which may be a huge challenge at this time, but will need to be factored into your day, because otherwise the child is going to watch. And that would be a pity.
What you say is you probably need to be make your team at work also cognizant of the fact.
Absolutely. And what's wrong with that? I mean, really, if I had a little child right now, I mean, I would have had the child sitting here saying, hey, listen to this, this is so and so, this is so and so, listen. But why are we trying to portray a clinical environment? It's not, it's a home.
Yeah.
If you have a dog, then let the dog stroll in. That's the way home is.
Absolutely. Well, that's really useful actually, Vinita, because I come across a lot of people in the corporate space. I've been doing multiple calls through the day, every day, and I've realized that women, at the risk of sounding a little sexist here, are far more accepting in showing, showing their household and showing that my room is messy today, or my kids are running into the room while I'm on a call, and they're comfortable with that. There is and that really helps being being connected also at some level, because I'm sure the person on the other side has a similar situation.
Yes, and I would like to say something here, Preeti, that while women could be a little more accepting of this, well, it is time that men are made accepting of it if they're not. It is time that, one of us actually says, hey, you know what? This is what's happening here. It's fine. They're going to have to, and it's terrible that it needs to be a gender discussion. But if it is that, then whoever it is at the other end who's going to judge you for things like that, they need to be brought into the system.
Right.
Right.
I have a couple of more questions. So in the interest of time, just, maybe a minute per question. I have questions from a couple of the parents here who have elderly kids. So one of them, Gautami, happens to have a child who's in grade 10, and I don't remember the name, but I did read another question about a child who is actually in college, and the fact that, they are very uncertain about their future, exams getting postponed, etc., and they seem to feel a little listless, and they seem to feel a little out of control, and that manifests in them saying things like, I don't want to do anything because I don't know when my exams will happen, quote unquote. How is it that we handle a situation like that?
Okay, I would definitely take that. I'm not even going to stop to be polite about this because that's an age group that I work with. My daughter herself, she's just graduating now as we speak. Um, while she has a job and she's supposed to join on the 28th of June, the company has called up saying that, you know, they're going to delay joining. So trust me, I understand, and we don't know when that joining is going to be. So the fact that the child is feeling anxious is valid. So please allow the child to display their anxiety. To say, I don't know when it will happen. So don't expect me to study for 3 months about an exam, a date of which I do not have. Right? A, so to accept that. B, what can they do? And this is going to have to come from them. See, because they're grown up children. We cannot tell them this is the best time in your life and you will never be able to learn as much as you will now. So why don't you do so? It's not going to happen when your child is 21 years old. If they are learners and if they have a learning and a growth mindset, then chances are that in these 3 months, they will learn more than they ever have. But if they don't, then I would worry more about their previous 21 years than these 3 months, frankly. You know, because the worry and the anxiety is valid.
Right.
It is very scary to you know, graduate from anywhere in this year. Because suddenly your best laid plans have gone for a toss.
Yeah.
Right? It's very hard to hear them out, talk, be in conversation with them, but do not dismiss their fears as theek ho jayega. We don't know that. So let's ride out the wave with them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And finally, one last question. I think I'll keep this the last one. Meghna, this is for you. A couple of questions. I think one I read from Ronita and the other one from Vidya about the fact that while we do try and role model behaviors and, you know, 50 times we are right and we are being all of what we are supposed to be, even tempered, etc., etc. But that one time when we lose it is what our children actually remember and make sure that we hear about it. So how is it that you kind of handle that? Is it that they consciously remember only one thing, but unconsciously remember all the other 50 incidents? And only give expression to one incident, but they do actually remember every other incident? Or is it that everything's washed out of their heads, you know?
That's a tough one, right? As a teenage mom, I hear that all the time. But I think it's like I said, I really believe it's a relationship with yourself, right? Parenting is a lot about how you feel about yourself. So the more you're grounded, the more confident you are, you know that your operating value as a parent is love above principles. You know, I think that will help you sort of keep coming back and you know, taking on whatever's coming at you. And I really like what Vinita said, that, you know, to not dismiss how the children are feeling at any given point of time. So if there's anger, if there's angst, if there's despair, like really first acknowledge it and allow them to share, talk about it. And, you know, just assure them that you're with them through this, right? And it is not just a fight of their own, we're in it. And I think that takes a little bit of your own grounding to be able to sound convincing. So I do think that, you know, parenting is a journey and we're on the path.
Okay, great. Absolutely. So acknowledging the angst on their side and acknowledging also the angst on our side, you know, coming back to being grounded and being vulnerable also. Thanks so much. So we're at 5:07 now. I believe we have got most of the questions covered. And if you guys have more questions, then feel free to write to us. Rekha, if you could just share email IDs on the chat screen, please do go ahead and write to us as and when you feel like. I know quite a few of you are in a bit of a hurry to leave, and I'm not sure my polling is going to work again because it didn't work the first time. So while I do have a poll to collect feedback from you, I'm going to try and do it on the chat screen. So before you leave, would request you to just put one word on the chat screen to tell us how the last 1 hour was. You know, whatever word comes to your mind. And after that, you know, we will leave behind our own credentials, our own email ID, so that you guys can write to us. Okay. Rekha has given her email ID. That's her email ID at the Catalyst. Those of you who would like to write to us, please do write to us for any sessions that you'd like conducted for your own organizations. So, okay, I can see a few words here. Very insightful, useful, wonderful. Okay, thank you so much. Enriching, practical, very nice. Thank you, Rashmi. Thank you, Ronida. Thank you. I think a lot of nice messages. Thank you, Vidya. And
Thanks a ton,
Sri
guys.
Vidya,
Thank you.
Bhanu.
I know. Thank you so much, Preeti, and thank you everyone out there. I mean, I really, for me, it was really nice to be able to reflect on my own parenting and, you know, share what came to me. So really nice, lovely, Vinita.
No, it really was. Thank you, Meghna. Thank you, Preeti. And thank you, all of you. I can see so many names, Bhanu, Vidya, some names that I will remember. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinita. Thank you, Meghna, again, on behalf of everyone here. Thank you for making time for this one. I had a great time. I have my own personal learnings. I've got like nice notes written down here. I don't know how much I'm going to retain, but I'm going to retain a few nuggets. And I know I'm going to have a discussion, you know, with my husband, who's also been on the webinar now. So,
really wonderful. Hey, lovely, lovely.
Joining in on a Sunday, and I hope this was useful. I also hope this was a good time for all of you to just kind of share with each other. All of us have our own set of challenges, but thank you for joining in, and all the best to all of you on your journeys going forward. Bye bye.
Thank
Bye.
you so
Thanks
much.
a ton. Bye.